Hi, welcome. My name is Florencia Ramirez, and I'm the host of the Kitchen Activist podcast. Thank you so much for joining me. And today I have an incredibly special guest, one of the most specialist guests that I could think of on the planet, because it is Joaquin, my son. And I asked him to join us on this Kitchen Activist podcast because he is 19 years old, living in a dorm, a college dorm in New York City, and he is cooking. And right now, I'm pulling together the Kitchen Activist Collective and writing about how our kitchens can become forces of change as long as we know we have the skill set, we know what we're doing, we're choosing food that we know is in alignment with nature and our desire to increase well-being on the planet and all, saving food, all of these things. But it occurred to me that as I'm writing about the kitchen, that people will, you might think that, well, I can't do this because I really don't have a kitchen. I don't have a nice kitchen, or my kitchen is too small, or I have a studio kitchen. We all have different kitchen setups. I've had so many kitchens throughout my life, from non-kitchens to larger kitchens. And so I thought, let me talk to Joaquin, because Joaquin is it's pretty savvy from what he's telling me of all of the things that he is able to cook in his dorm room kitchen and also the shared kitchen that he has down the hall. Welcome, Joaquin, onto the Kitchen Activist podcast. So why don't you just set the scene for us? Tell us, show us. I know this will be on YouTube. That's a new thing for this podcast. This will be on YouTube, so you can watch it, you can see it. But for those people, those of us who are listening in on to this podcast and can't see your dorm room, can you set the scene for us? Describe your dorm kitchen. What are you working with? What kinds of what do you have in there? A mini fridge, a hot plate? Go ahead. Let us know.
So I just have a mini fridge, and then it has a built-in freezer as well, a toaster oven, a rice cooker, and a kettle, and I guess like a cutting board and a knife. And
Yeah.
then there's a shared kitchen on each floor of the dorm I live in, which has a full-size stove and oven.
So I know for many college students, there's a cafeteria. So I think I need to back up a little bit, because you go to Hunter College in New York City, there is no meal plan option at your school. So everybody has to cook or go out to eat, right? And what are you finding that most students are doing in the dorm situation? Because most students are 18, 19, 20 years old, correct?
Yeah, even older than that. But I see a lot of Trader Joe's frozen food
Mm-hmm.
because it's very easy to make and it's relatively affordable. A lot of eggs. And I see some people at, like, cooking some actual good food, but for the most part, I'm seeing like the Trader Joe's orange chicken and like something to pop in the microwave. So
Which you like from time to time as
yeah,
well.
I mean Trader Joe's orange chicken is delicious, but you can't just rely on that, and also it's not the best for you.
Yeah. So when you say it's not the best for you, how do you know that?
Well, I guess from being your son, but also, I mean, a good a good what's the word? A good a good indicator on if something is good or bad for you is you can just take a quick look at the back ingredients, and if it's more than like this big, then I don't know how good that is for you.
So you're holding your fingers up, showing like a very large
Yeah,
list.
yeah, a very
Yeah.
large list. And also, if
List.
there's many words that you can't really pronounce or have no idea what they are, um, most of the time they're just unneeded preservatives. So
So behind you, if you're watching this, we can see your toaster oven that's sitting atop on top of your mini fridge, right? So tell us, what does it look like for you? Like, how do you approach cooking for one person. I know sometimes, and we'll get into this, you also are cooking for others, friends that are starting to come over to your dorm on Friday night. But before we get there, what does that look like? Like, so when you sit down and you're planning and you're on a budget, what are you buying?
Um, I start off every week by getting uh, dry beans and soaking them overnight and then cooking a big pot of beans. So you can have that all throughout the week. And you know, even as simple as just heating up some rice and some beans, it's a fulfilling meal. It's a complete protein. And you could add some salsa or hot sauce onto it to eat it plain. And you could also just build onto that. You can season some chicken or some beef or grill up some veggies or sometimes I do like some seasoned potatoes that I throw in the toaster oven back there. Um, and you throw those on some rice and beans, and it's delicious. Um, I think a good thing to do is, keep in mind that, protein keeps you more full. So I kind of like to go for protein first. And, that's not just meat. It's like, eggs and beans are like a staple in my fridge and in my shopping cart every week.
Hmm. Yeah. Well, you grew up in my kitchen where
Yeah.
beans is a
No, yeah.
staple.
I mean,
Yeah.
we're Mexican, so it's,
We're
yeah.
Mexican, but also just beans they're magic. I mean, I could see
Oh, yeah, they
why
are.
the Jack and the Beanstalk with the magic beans, that was really, I feel like talking about what all the health benefits that come with beans. And not only that, but I know you know this, Joaquin, but just beans, how they draw nitrogen from the sky and put it into the ground. So they truly are building health around the planet, not just for us, but also for soil health and sequester the helping to sequester carbon. I mean, it just goes on and on. I just love beans. So I'm
Oh, yeah.
happy. I'm glad that you are taking that skill or taking that my love for beans to with you to New York. So you told me before we got onto this podcast that you are soaking beans.
There's a pot behind me on top of the toaster oven right now that I put there this morning to soak the beans because after this podcast is over, I'm gonna go cook them in a fresh pot of beans.
So
Uh,
take us through how do you make your beans?
well, extremely simple. First of all, I get the beans. I like to go to Whole Foods because they have a bulk option. I know not all Whole Foods or grocery stores for that matter have bulk, but it's super cheap, even from Whole Foods, which is a notoriously overpriced um, grocery store. I get them and then I sort through them because beans have dirt clods in them, and I don't want dirt in my beans. So I sort through them and then I put it through the colander and rinse them out. And then I throw them in the pot, cover them with water and salt, let them sit throughout the whole day or overnight, however long. Um, and then I drain the water. You don't have to, but I like to do it. And then I re-season it. I put some black crushed black pepper, a little bit of cumin, um, whole cloves of garlic. I chop up a jalapeno, a couple of them, throw them in there, and then set it to boil for like 45 minutes. And after that, you have a wonderful pot of beans. Also
Mhm.
salt as well.
Oh
Uh,
yeah, salt for sure. That's what softens beans.
yeah. So when you're
Yeah.
soaking them, to add the salt.
Yeah, I've started doing that more consistently. It does make a big difference. So okay, so you're making beans, a protein, some rice, eggs, some vegetables. You're roasting in your electric stove. What are you doing in your rice cooker?
Um, well, rice, obviously. You can do hard-boiled eggs. You put them on there's a little carriage that you can put on top of it while you're boiling stuff and make
This
hard-boiled
little
eggs.
steamer.
Yeah. And also I just use it to reheat stuff as well. So with the beans, if nor I only have one pot. So I just throw them in there and let them cook. And then once they start simmering, I know they're done. I use it to reheat a lot of stuff that's, liquid based.
Oh,
Um,
oh, that's I hadn't thought about doing it that
I
way.
also make pasta like that. I put some water and wait for it to boil and make the pasta then. um,
Inside of your rice cooker.
inside of my rice cooker because I just wait for it to boil and the
Hmm.
pasta like normally. If I'm making something for me, because my pot is very big, and so that wouldn't really make a lot of sense to make a.
Your pot is really big, but your rice cooker is
My rice
smaller.
cooker is very small. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, because you don't have a microwave. And I know this because we gave you options when we when we bought things for your
yeah.
dorm, right? And you didn't want a microwave.
I don't ever use a microwave. I mean, in my household, or I guess our household growing up, we never had a microwave up until like the last 2 years. Um, but it was never something that I ever needed to use, or I just didn't grow up with using a microwave and or grow up eating frozen food. Um,
Hmm.
and if I need to reheat something like that, I'll just turn on the toaster oven and throw it in there. And it isn't that often where I need to do something like that.
So, do you have a chef's knife?
I do. I do have a chef's knife. It is a very nice one that was gifted to me by you. Um, and a small cutting board. And
Yeah.
you don't even have to get a really nice knife. I mean, just having a knife and cutting board so you can chop stuff up.
Well, a chef's knife, I do believe, and it took me many years before I had a nice chef knife. And now that I have one, I understand how it really does up your game, right? Just like
No, it
once you
does.
learn how to use the chef knife, which is not that hard, it does it does up your game. So I believe, just like I heard it told to me that you should purchase a chef knife, the most expensive chef knife that you can afford, and you will keep it for years, right? I
Yeah.
mean, that chef knife you will have probably for decades. I don't think,
Yeah. I do
I
need to
don't,
sharpen it though. I need to get some sharpening stuff so I can get
yeah.
nice again.
Yeah, you're really, and I'm not that good at doing this either, but you're supposed to sharpen it after each time you use a chef knife, just like that quick sharpen on
Yeah.
either side. Yeah. And then also you can look into where there's knife sharpening places nearby, and they're not that expensive, like
Yeah.
$6 or something to sharpen your knife. So you tell me about what's been happening on Fridays, because that's kind of a new thing, right, for you. But talk to me about that.
So I love to cook, if that hasn't been made apparent, but I like to cook for people, and I've been doing this since I was younger. Um, and so it's either I have a friend that from high school that goes to college with me, and he lives in the same building, and I kind of go a little higher than or I would put more effort into this meal than I would to my other ones. Um, and I would make something kind of more grand and then invite some friends from that don't live in this building. They'd come out and eat it before we go out for the night. Just so we could have a filling meal because before I started doing this, like on Friday specifically, like before we go out and hang out, getting like a deli sandwich or a slice of pizza or like a burger or something like that, which are delicious, but they don't fill you up in the same way that a very hearty meal would.
Especially not on your budget, right? You
Yeah,
would,
no.
because you're not buying as much pizza probably that you would
Yeah.
want.
Yeah, because I mean, if like a deli sandwich in the area I'm going to, it differs from each deli to each borough. It's like $6, $7. I mean, between the three of us, that's like $20. Um, for $20, you can get a lot of food and cook a lot of food with that. Um, and it always tastes better.
Hmm. So
Not dissing deli sandwiches, they're delicious, but
so are you buying organic products? I won't, or organic ingredients. I won't tell your mother if you say no.
For the most part, yeah, I am because there's only like what I've seen at least, especially at Trader Joe's, they have a lot of affordable organic products. Because there's only a $1 to $2 difference in between the two, and I
So what,
grew up knowing that that does make a difference.
so I know that so you say you grew up knowing that that makes a difference. Can you share what that difference is for you? What is that difference?
I mean,
Why?
your life's work. has been, you know, as of recent, as my whole life actually, is writing the book Eat Less Water, about how organic food uses less water and therefore, helps with water shortages. And growing up in California, you see the water shortage everywhere you go. I mean, we've been in like a mega drought for a while. Um, and I don't know how much of a difference my organic tomato sauce is going to make, but if everyone does do that, then it'll make a bigger difference. As you say all the time, the power is in the collective. So um,
There is power in the collective. That's true. And I write about in Eat Less Water, the a conversation that you and I had where you saw, because it becomes so normal to see this where we live in Oxnard, where you grew up, but to see the guy, the farm worker, wearing a white hazmat suit and spraying pesticides or fumigants on the strawberry field that are just like eerily kind of coming off of out of the truck, right? So in the book, I write about this question that you had, Joaquin, where we're driving home from piano class and there's spotlight flooding the rows of strawberries to provide lights for the tractor driver who is spraying pesticides because they do it also at night, not just during the day. And you ask, what's a light for? I think you were about 8 or 9 years old. And because the night gave this, it was just eerie, to see those like billows of what looks like steam, but it's the fumigants. And he's wearing the white hazmat suit, and but just like on every inch of his body, and his mouth was covered with a surgical mask too. And but you said, well, when I told you what he was doing, and you said, well, shouldn't he be wearing a gas mask? And it was like, really he should. But because it's so commonplace, we just think it's okay, right? But what's happening to the health of people in our planet as a result of those fumigants that are happening all the time. So here, I know this is a statistic you've heard before, but here in California, the average farm worker lifespan is something like 49 years old. So, and that's here in California. And that's because of what's happening on these conventional farms. So I'm glad that you've taken that with you, that that food value with you, and when you're shopping. So when you are cooking on Fridays, and you are what are some of the things that you're cooking, and what does that look like? So you're going to class, and then what does Friday look like?
so I go to class and I'm done. Me and my friend who lives in the building, we're done around like 3:45, 4-ish. So we go there. We go to Trader Joe's or Whole Foods, depending on what we're making. Because if we're getting like meat, we're gonna go to Whole Foods because they have better. Their butcher is and their meat quality is really good. I really look forward to Fridays because it's like I love cooking. So I kind of plan it out a day or two in advance, and either by memory or find a recipe or write down a recipe of what I'm going to make. And then I create like a shopping list on what I need. So, for example, this Friday, or tomorrow, because it's a Thursday, I'm going to make jambalaya, which is one of my favorite recipes to make. And I have like in my notes app just a simple thing of how much I need, and then I can go on the Whole Foods website and see how much it costs, and then put in the price and then add it all together. So I have all the ingredients I need, how many of them I need, or how much weight of it I need, and then the price that it costs with it. And so I do that for every time, or most of the times I do. I don't always do the price, but I always write everything down that I need. Um, so
So you
last week I
mentioned the
did.
price. Go ahead. Go
Oh,
ahead. Tell us.
last
But
week
no,
I made. last week I made pozole, which is a family staple. I actually made it on Christmas this year because my poor mother was sick. Um, and
Yeah,
so I
you
kind
really
of I think
don't.
that was the second time I made it, but I would always watch my dad make it. Um, and so this is the first time I think I made it like on my own, like I guess not at home. And it was really simple. It took a while, but my friend came over from his apartment and everyone enjoyed it and it was delicious. And I think it was better than anything you guys have made. Um,
And I know you told me you've made milanesa, which
yeah,
is, is a chicken, a fried type of chicken, right? Like,
chicken cutlet
yeah,
with rice
with
and beans.
and some sliced tomatoes and
Mhm.
yeah, what else have you made on Fridays?
Um, I've made a bunch of nachos just because, but I grill the chicken beforehand, some chicken thighs and season it with just chili powder, garlic powder, onion salt, and pepper, and some lime on it. Let it soak for a bit. Throw it on the cast iron, then chop it up and throw it on some nachos. That's another great easy crowd pleaser. Um,
Mhm.
and anyone can make nachos because there's no specific measurements for that. It's very simple.
And then you're
But
using the beans that you batch
yeah,
cook.
I'm using the beans.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you know, even just like beans and then making the pan fried Mexican rice. And then you could add whatever kind of meat you want, make it into burritos or tacos, so however you want to make it. Um, I've also done tortas, which are like a Mexican sandwich with some seasoned skirt steak, and that was delicious. Also made my own salsa for a couple of those meals. Um, but yeah, I kind of just started doing this Friday thing where I kind of go all out recently, so I don't really have much to say about it, but I'm like progressively trying to get more difficult every time.
So do you share the cost with of ingredients with your friends generally?
Sometimes yes, sometimes no. Just kind of depends. I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, but if they don't, then they usually just buy me something when I'm
They'll
out and
buy you
about.
they'll buy you that slice of pizza another
Yeah, or that
time.
deli sandwich. Yeah,
Yeah.
kind of just a way to repay me for my labor and the cost of food.
So, meal planning on a budget. How much money are you spending every week for food?
I normally don't really go out to eat that much, unless it's a special occasion or some friends invite me out. So for the most part, I'm spending around $50 total. And that's groceries, and then like if I want like a snack in the middle of the day, get like a bagel. Um,
So you're
but
cooking those feasts on $50 a week and
yeah,
feeding other people.
yeah. I mean,
And
if you plan it out
and organic ingredients, mostly organic
for the
ingredients.
most part, I'm not going to claim that everything's 100% organic, but I will say that majority of it is
Mm.
organic. Um, but I mean, I think it just comes down to planning it out, and you know, you most grocery stores, I guess the major ones have an online thing you can look up and you can check the price of stuff and put in the location of your grocery store and check it out. So I know for me, the closest grocery store to me or the closest Whole Foods for me is the one in Nomad. And I could just go to the Whole Foods website, put in Nomad Whole Foods, and just price check everything then and there. It'll show me what's on sale, show me what's not on sale. Um, so sometimes I'll even like if because the week I did the skirt steak was on sale, so that's why I got it. This week shrimp's on sale, so I'm gonna be using some shrimp in my jambalaya. So
Oh, nice. I wish I was there to try some. Well, I've had your jambalaya, and so I know it's outstanding. I want to thank you so much, Joaquin, for joining me and saying yes to this invitation. It just for me as a mother who has been doing this work, as you shared, and one of the biggest rewards for me has been of kitchen activism is to see how my kids as they've moved on to their own kitchens or their own situations, have taken it with them. And that skill, the skills that you've learned in my kitchen that you are building upon and growing it in your own way. So it's just pretty magnificent for me. But what advice would you give to other students or someone who thinks they can't cook because they're in a dorm or small apartment or have a studio, kitchenette type situation? What would you say to them? What is the first step that they can take to start cooking?
Don't limit yourself. I mean, when I first got here, this living situation in the dorm, I wasn't sure on what I was going to be able to make or if I had the motivation to do it, if I was just going to be making Trader Joe's frozen food for the rest of my time here. But I was just thinking, like, well, I would do the stuff at home, so why not here? And also just explore. I mean, you see, there's recipes all the time you see on your Explore page on Instagram and whatnot. And a lot of them look really good. And just think, like, oh, like, save it in a folder somewhere and come back to it when you're grocery shopping and thinking about what you want to do for the week. Like, man, that looked really good. I think I want to try that out. And with anything, it's trial and error. The first time I made jambalaya didn't come out so well, but now I'm pretty, I got it down. So I'm at the point where I'm even trying to like modify it and see if I can make it even better. Um, so it just comes down to like not limiting yourself and finding inspiration and not being scared to fail because if you fail, you just try again.
That is wonderful. Will you do us a favor and write down like a list of what you think are kind of the essentials that you would need in a dorm so that we can share it with folks in the show notes? That would be, I think, really helpful. I know we're winding down on the school year, but before you know it, kids or young people will be needing to purchase things for their dorms next fall, so
Mhm.
that would be really helpful, I think, for people to know what are the things that they would need. And what would be one other thing that you could use in your dorm that you wish you had?
Maybe a blender, if anything. But my friend has a blender, so it's basically my blender. But no, I think I have everything that I need here. Maybe a smaller pot too, but I have silverware, I have a can opener, I got a knife, cutting board, got all the things I need.
Well, thank you, Joaquin, so much for joining me here with this discussion, the Kitchen Activist podcast. All of these small things that we do add up and will make a difference on this planet for the health of the planet and for you. So thank you again, Joaquin.
Of course, thank you.
I love you.
Love you too.